Hey, and welcome back to the Dice Tower. I'm Camilla.
I'm Z Garcia.
And I'm Joey Evans.
And today we're going to be taking a look at Above and Below Haunted. This is a follow-up to Above and Below, so it's kind of a second edition. It's standalone. It's not compatible. It is its own thing, but has a lot of roots in Above and Below as well.
Yeah.
The original, which I have played and I very, very much like. It's in my top 100.
And I have played, and I think it's fine.
Okay. I have not played.
Right.
Above
So
and
that's good. It's
Yeah.
kind
You
of
played
three
Haunted,
different perspectives
Right.
on the first edition of this,
Yes.
if you would.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's sort of a reworked version of the game.
Right.
Because it shares a lot of DNA with that, but really it's its own thing.
It is. It is its own thing. It's going to bring in more player interaction and stuff. So in the overview here, I am going to give an overview of the whole game, not just the changes. We'll talk about that when we come back. So let's jump in. Above and Below Haunted is going to be a competitive game for 1 to 4 players in which you are going to be exploring your town here and building it up. So you're going to have buildings available to build as well as different locations that you can explore, which will open up additional building opportunities. You're also going to be gathering resources, making some trades with other players and things like that. It's going to be like I said, a competitive game played over 7 different rounds, which will be tracked here on the round tracker. And each round is going to consist of each player taking as many actions as they can until they pass. At the end of the game, the highest points will win, and points are going to be anything with this heptagon symbol here. So coming from a couple different tracks, from some resource collection, buildings, things like that. We'll get to that here at the end, though. So on your turn, you have 5 different actions that you can take. The first one is going to be to explore. This is kind of the meat of the game here, is this exploration action. It's where we're going to get a lot of the story elements and things like that. So when you explore, it is going to require 2 ready villagers. Ready villagers are anyone that's in this first section of your board here. So you're going to choose which villagers you have available that you want to explore. You're also going to have to choose if you want to do a regular explore action or a dangerous explore action. The dangerous explore actions are a little bit more difficult, with a difficulty of 5 to 11, and the regular ones are only 2 to 6. So at the beginning of the game, let's say that you would decide to go ahead and do the regular one. You're going to put that down into your player area here, down below your buildings, your above buildings, and then choose which villagers you want to explore. So let's say that I'm going to use these 2 villagers here. So I'd put them on here to show that they are going exploring. Now I would take and roll a die in order to see which passage that the players are going to read for me. So in this case, it would be passage 31. Take the storybook, open it up, and read the associated passage with that. In each passage, it's going to give you a choice of a difficulty level, and then you will roll a die for each of your villagers to see if you pass that. So in this case, I got a 2. I would do it one at a time. I'm sorry. So for this one here, I would roll this. I got a 5, and then for this one, I got a 5 as well. So if we look up here at the top of the little things, we see a 5 meets the threshold for 2 lanterns, and then the 5 here meets the threshold for 1 lantern. So I'd have 3 lanterns total. If that is a success, they're going to read the success part of the story, and then I would get whatever comes from that story. Now, when you are adventuring, if you find yourself just 1 lantern short, or you want to push that threshold and go for a bonus, then you can always injure one of the explorers that went out as well. To injure an explorer is going to give you 1 additional lantern. So again, let's say I had the 2 5s, and that would give me 3 lanterns, and I needed 4 lanterns. Let's say that I would pull this one here into the exhausted area, and pull this one into the injured area, and that would give me the 4 I needed. 2 from this, and then 2 from this because he is injured. He really exerted himself. After you do that and you have resolved and you've taken any of the goodies that you have earned, you're going to flip that card over to show now you are aware of this cave space and you can build a building on top of it. That's going to bring us to our next action that you can take on your turn, which is going to be to build a building. In order to do this action, you have to have a ready and available villager with this build action or this hammer icon. So if he was here, I could decide that I'm going to use him, moving him to the exhausted in order to build a building over here. Buildings are all going to have a cost associated, and everything that you see is available. You're going to have star star buildings up here, which are going to be mostly end game points and kind of your big goals. You're going to have your key buildings here, which are good like beginning of the game, give you some different abilities or one-time resources. And then you have your actual deck, which will replenish. Everything up here, the star and the keys, will not replenish, and everything down here will. As soon as you buy one, paying the associated cost, it will refill. So I would take 7 coins here, and I would put this one over into here. You can have as many above buildings as you want, which are going to be this plain sky background, but in order to build a cave building, you have to have an explored cave to put on top of. You gotta know where you want to build it. You need to know what's down there first. Once you build a building, these are immediately going to refill from the deck here. If it comes with a resource like this with the dots on it, then when that came into your tableau, you would just take the associated resource and put it on top of it like this. And now those are ones that we can get to when we do the labor action, which we'll get to here in a second. So let's say I look something like this right now. The next thing we can do is we can take care of the ghost that might be in our village here, and this is going to be the banish. So as you go through the different storybook and different events happen in the adventure deck, things like that, some buildings are going to have ghosts on them. Now, when you take this banish action, again, you have to have someone with the quill, so they would come into the exhausted area like this, and you would take all the ghosts from your buildings and return them to the supply except for one. That one you hold back, you can put on another player's building. Depending on the building you place it on, it's going to give you a little bonus, and that's going to be on the main board here, as you can see. If you place it on a building without a bed, you're going to get 2 reputation and 2 coins. So you would just take that into your supply. If you put it on a building with a bed, so for example, like right here, then you are going to get one of these magic brews here and 3 coins. So you would take that. And finally, if you put it on a cave, it doesn't matter if it has a bed or not. If you put it on a cave building, then you're going to get a brew potion and a boat. Boats always come into the ready, and what they're going to allow you to do is once per round, you can spend them for either a coin or to mitigate a die roll and instantly make it a 6. So that is good to use each round, and once they're used, would just go into the exhausted. And again, they're going to refresh at the end of the round, which we'll see here in a little bit. So that's going to be the banish action. You get rid of your ghost, place one of them on somebody else's, and get the associated reward. You're also going to have a hire action. Hire action is going to bring us back up here again to the main board, in which case we look at the top. Now these are going to be villagers that are available for hire, and they're going to come with an associated cost. If you buy any of the first 3, they are going to come with a ghost as well, because they take a shortcut getting to you and get haunted along the way. They do have lesser cost, but they come with a ghost, and you would just put that ghost on one of your buildings. You do not get the award for the banish action. So you would just pay the associated cost and take that person into your exhausted area. They do not come in refreshed and ready to go. If you take one of the ones from the from the right here, again, they're going to cost more. They're not going to come with a ghost, and you get a brew, which you would just immediately take into your supply. But once again, these would come into your exhausted area along with the person that you sent to town to hire them. These are not going to refill immediately, so the buildings did refill. This does not refill. Our final action here is going to be the labor action. When you labor, you can use any number of villagers, and it does not matter what their symbol is. In order to take this action, you would choose how many villagers you want to use, and you would move them to the exhausted area. For each villager that you choose, you're going to get 1 coin, and you can harvest 1 resource from your built buildings over here. If they have this hammer icon right here, then they still only get 1 coin, but they can harvest 2 goods. So in this case here, I would just want to use that hammer one perhaps, so that I could get my 1 coin, and then I could harvest both of these. Now, anytime you get one of these resources, and this comes from the adventure book or from the harvest icon or anything else, anytime you get these, you have a decision to make. You can either keep them in your player area and kind of in a holding pattern, Or you can take and associate it on the bottom track down here. So let's say in this case, I want to put it down here. The first time you have that resource, you would put it in the leftmost open spot. So for example, the crab is going to go here. Later on, if I got a tea leaf here, then I would again decide to put it over here. Or let's say I want to go ahead and fill up my track, I would put it in the leftmost available. It would go here. The first person to earn an ingredient, a type here, is going to take one of their cubes and claim that bonus up here. Subsequent resources that are earned would just go on top of the same resource down here in the track. Everyone has used all of their actions. Then you would go into the end of round cleanup. The first thing you're going to do is haunt. All of the ghosts in your built area is going to cost you 1 reputation. This is going to be the reputation track here, which you can see at the end of the game is going to be positive or negative points. And so you would just adjust that accordingly. I have 1 ghost, so I would lose 1 reputation. After that, you're going to move the round marker and then refresh the villagers. To refresh the villagers, you move them down, and from here you are going to fill them in from left to right. The next phase is going to be to rest the villagers. You can rest villagers as many beds as you have built into your tableau over here. So for example, here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 beds. I would be able to rest 4 villagers. I only have 4 villagers, so this works well. I would rest 1, 2, 3, 4. A bed always rests 1 position. I can use a magic brew in order to rest them 1 position. So if I had only had 3 beds and it looked something like this, I could rest him, this lady here, with 1 of these magic brew potions, or it can be used to take them a second step. Boats are always going to refresh as well. They never get injured. After that, it's time to collect our income. Your income is going to be a base of 3 as seen on your player board. However, that can go up and increase as you get different ingredients or resources down here. So in this case, I have 2 resources. I'm filled up into the second row here. I would have a income of 5. This is also going to be increased by any buildings you have, such as this one here, which would give me an additional 1. So in this case, I would have an income of 5, 6. You would take your coins, and then we would go into the next phase, which is going to be to pass the first player and start a new round. After we go through all 7 rounds, again, we are just going to add up our points, and highest points wins. Points are going to come from different buildings that you have built. So for example, here in this one, this is worth 6 points plus 1 point for each building in the caves. You're going to look at your advancement track on the bottom of your board, and each resource in that track is going to be worth the points listed above that spot and that position. So let's say here I look something like this. Each of these crabs here, and I would have been, I guess, something like that, is going to be worth 1 point. So these crabs would be worth 1, 2 points. Same for the tea leaves here, it's 1, but each of these fish are going to be worth 2. So this would be worth 2, 4, 6 points. So you're going to get your advancement tracks, you're going to get your buildings, and then you're going to look at the reputation track and get reputation positive or negative points depending on where you are. Plus, whoever has the highest reputation is going to get 5 points, second 3, and third 2. Then we have the ingredient track, which is up here. So in this case, I would have 4 points for the fish and 1 point for the crab, so 5 extra points. We're going to add all those up, and again, highest points are going to win. That's going to be it for Above and Below Haunted. Let's go back up top and talk about our thoughts. All right, so like I said, just a brief overview. I didn't really go into all the nitty-gritty. Lots of other little rules for you to discover in the rulebook yourself. All right, so first of all, production. I always like to talk about that. I think it's right on par with all of Red Raven's games, which is very high.
And to be fair, I don't know what's... Like, I know Red Raven Games sometimes puts out, like, deluxe editions of games, and sometimes that's the only version that exists, and sometimes there is a sort of, post-crowdfunding version and a crowdfunding version. I don't know what this is. I believe, like, for example, I believe metal coins exist. They're not in here.
Correct.
Okay.
But I guess the ghosts with their cool little screen printing in silver are standard, and they must be in every version.
As well as the dice, which have the iridescent, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess some things are standard across the board here. Yeah. The production is very, very good. The entire thing is put together very well. This game always felt, in a way, to me, a little minimalistic, especially when compared to Ryan Lauka's later games in the same series. And this one manages to hold on to a little bit of that kind of quaint feel.
Yeah.
While still giving you a really, really nice production.
Yeah, it definitely, I appreciate that it's holding on to enough of the original Above and Below in the very straightforward, simplistic, I guess, kind of design, where you have one of 5 actions you can take. You go until everyone passes, do that through 7 rounds, and your winner has the most points. Done. This one, especially as opposed to Now or Never or Near and Far, has much shorter passages, I feel like, and more standalone passages. So which is from the original as well, but this version bringing in that adventure deck where there can be ongoing effects because of that, I think it was a really good implementation to kind of make a little bit more of a cohesive story as you go through this adventure. What do you guys think about that?
I like the story. I didn't see it being cohesive at all. I found it all a little standalone. It had like a silly aspect to a lot of it. And that's what I felt myself looking forward to, as opposed to the deeper story games. I look forward to the silly stuff that happens. That really made good moments, you know?
Well, I think the cohesive thing that you're talking about is sometimes you get a card that sticks around.
Got it.
They're definitely not connected.
Right.
And I thought the writing was fine, actually. I did find quite a few of the passages were, I don't know if too short, too much of like a little whimper. They were like, there's a glowing cavern. Do you want to walk in there? I'm like, that's it? That's all you got? I understand that I think they are prioritizing this being a faster game.
Yeah.
And the passages therefore being kind of quick.
Right.
But I found a few of them to be like the writing to not be that interesting. It was sort of like, you found a glowing thing. You want to touch it or you want to walk on? I'm like, well, yes. Which one's easier, actually? I'll do that one. Yeah.
No, like you were saying, you tend to want to go, which one can I achieve easier rather than which one goes with the story better.
Well, unless you're really powerful, and then you're like, oh, I'll do the harder one. I don't really care what it is. Yeah.
But I do think that opened up a lot of really interesting opportunities to where you can push it as well. And so you're like, hey, I'm probably going to get about 6 lanterns in this one. Let me go for the easier one, and I'm going to go for that extra bonus.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. I also thought that going into the passages, you had no idea what you were going to get. It really did have that feeling of, let's go into this cave and see. And it might be a one-liner. It's glowing. Do you want to go in? Or it might be a 2 or 3 part passage where you're making multiple decisions and kind of branching. And so I really appreciated that each adventure, you had no idea what you were getting into.
Yeah. I do like that. I like that sometimes it feels like a little bonus that you stumble into a good story. But by the very nature of that comparison, then a lot of the stories are not that good.
Right.
And it makes the good ones, the longer ones, the in-depth ones, captivating.
I think that might come down to more of a style and what you're looking to get out of the game, because I would not say that they are not interesting. I think they are they're quicker and not as hard of decisions.
Yeah.
And so for me, that if they were all that big and those lengthier passages where I'm making these bigger decisions, then I'm probably going to play the subsequent games. I'm probably going to look at Near and Far. I'm probably going to look at Now or Never.
Yeah.
And so I liked that it kept it simple and that most of the time they are very quick encounters. But every now and then you get that big one. And then we had in our live play a couple ones where they come back to haunt you, quite literally, you know, and just some really crazy reactions, I think, boisterous, reactions.
I am curious. I do want to ask you guys if you think that this game would benefit, and I don't think I saw it in there anywhere, from like a one-sheet cheat sheet kind of thing of like what the stuff is, like what's a Glogo? What's a Calpri or a because I understand this feels in many ways kind of celebratory of Arzium, this world that Ryan Lauka likes to set his games in. But it also is a really nice jumping on point, like as a first game if you've never played any of these other games. And I definitely, even knowing those games, I found myself reading, like, you walk up on a Glogo, and I'm like, which one was that guy?
Right. Yes.
He's the chubby-looking, kind of like rock-looking guy, I think. I think a little player aid or something on the back of the rule book that shows you this is the different races you might encounter might have been a nice touch.
I think a compendium of sorts.
Yeah.
If you're thinking Meadow has how it explains all the cards, or in Wormspan, how it has that whole compendium of all the different dragons.
Yeah.
That one, it's not really needed and doesn't really serve a purpose, I didn't feel like. But in this one, I do agree. I hadn't thought of that. I think that would be fantastic. Just help me set the stage a little bit. It's there if I want it. It's also there if I want to put it aside. I wouldn't want it in the rule book. I would want a separate thing that I can
agree.
sit and read in bed one night and kind of catch up, but then put it in the bottom of the box and forget about it afterward.
I think it would flesh out my issue with those little short stories. I really do think so, because they're so quick. But if I'm bringing some background that you provided in the same box, then I feel a little bit better about those short encounters.
I agree, especially the fact that it would give each of those species personality, because I think I played above near far once, so I didn't know that a lot of these species were crossovers, which apparently you guys did. So it would be cool to, when you walk up, you're like, oh, this is going to be good, or this is probably going to work.
I know who this is a little bit.
I like that, yeah.
Anything else we want to talk about before we jump into the final thoughts here?
Well, the gameplay, I was concerned at first about the whole ghosts thing. I remember reading this online and thinking, oh, this seems very much like Above and Below, and it is very much like Above and Below. And one of the few things they added that was immediately noticeable, I should say, was the ghosts.
Yeah.
And the thing that stood out without playing the game especially is that, this is like negative interaction. They've added a whole big dollop of basically screw your neighbor kind of choices.
Right.
It didn't come across that way as much as I was afraid it would.
I agree, and I feel like it's balanced out because there is that building, that one key building. The star building that's going to give you points based on your ghost. So if you're finding yourself just really in that position, then there's a way out of that. As well as everyone can take that banish action. So the fact that you're getting rid of all of the ghost and just putting one on a neighbor or another player, I think is what's helping mitigate that, because it doesn't feel like here's your 7 ghosts and there's 8 ghosts being passed around. It's just one, and it's almost little micro changes that doesn't feel as painful, I guess, or as you don't feel as picked on.
Yeah.
And it's balanced through the other mechanisms of the game that it didn't feel like take that.
Yeah, I like that about the ghosts as far as the balancing aspect of just how those ghosts dissipate, except for that one that jumps around.
Yeah.
And also there's that benefit of getting that when you get rid of them off your tile. So you have the placement, want to place, and then you start to place it on someone's tile, but you don't do it on the wrong one, give them too much of a benefit. And then, of course, there's that scoring. If you can get it to where you can kind of score on your ghosts, people are going to stop throwing ghosts your way.
Yeah, fair.
Well,
it doesn't shut down your building or anything. It just tanks your reputation, and which can bottom out, and then that's kind of it. That's certainly not something you should dismiss. There's a lot of points that can come from that, but I guess I was just pleasantly surprised that I really enjoyed the ghost aspect of the game.
I agree.
It was not mean, or if it was, it certainly wasn't sort of overpoweringly so. I really liked it. I liked the idea of, oh no, I had an encounter and a ghost came home with me. Well, take an action, get rid of them, get a little bonus.
My initial fear was that it would shut down that building. And that would be, for me, that would change the entire feel of the game for me.
It would.
I agree.
Yeah, it would feel mean, picked on at that point. All right, so Joey, what do you think?
All right, well, I liked it. This is my first kind of foray into this. I like the balance of trying to get enough beds with the workers, and then if you don't have enough, then of course it has that mitigation. You can exhaust people. There's a lot that went into this. I found this as a lighter game. I think for me, I looked forward to... It is a storytelling game, but the stories are silly for me. It's just I like the ones that kind of leaned into that rather than the ones that look like a big, heavy thing. Coming in at a 7 on this because I do enjoy it. I think this is a family weight style game. Again, this is one that I approached, and I even asked you, I said, should I read the rule book first? You're like, no, you'll get it. And then you gave the rules, and you're like, got it. A storytelling game that you get that quickly, I think it's good. I think it really shines with there.
Nice.
I think it's better than the first one, considerably so. I'm going to give this one an 8. I think it's a very good game. Now, the argument as to whether you should go get your Above and Below and throw it in the trash and get this one instead, that I can argue one way or the other. I'm not sure I would say anybody needs to get this one in place of the... if you don't have either, get this. If you already have Above and Below... how much do you love it? Do you want more stories? Do you want a little couple of twists? But it's less of a sort of, oh, you got to get it if you already have Above and Below, in my opinion, right? But in a vacuum, absolutely, much better than the first one. More interesting choices, more reliable ways to get those caverns, because even when you fail a story, you still get the cavern. It's, in an interesting way, less punishing, even though there's those ghosts going around. There's more to it. The game feels more fully fleshed out. It's a more interesting world. It's a more interesting game to play. And that central concept of, as you take the goodies, the more different ones you get, the sort of they become worth more and more later on, which was straight up from the original, is still so good. That's just fun. So yeah, for me, a strong 8. If you don't have the first one, you should absolutely, no questions, get this.
Yeah, I agree. I'm at 8.5. I think that this is an excellent game. I do love the original, but I think that this does just flesh it out a little bit and just kind of makes it a more balanced experience. And by balanced, I don't feel like the first one was imbalanced, but more gives you more options and things to go for and brings a little bit more tension to the gameplay. I really like the changes in this, especially with... as you're getting the different resources and the different ingredients, the first person to get that gets that bonus on that track.
Like that.
Yes.
So therefore, you
That's
might
pretty funny.
get a building just for the points, but you also might be going out and getting those ingredients just so that you can harvest it really quick to get that 4 points at the end. And so it really puts a lot of pressure and kind of this almost racing element to some buildings. And also, it encourages you to go out and explore, because you really hope to find that fish, that really rare squid root or something like that, in order to get that 4-point bonus.
Yeah.
And then you want to couple it with the building, because then that's going to increase that track as well. But someone else is going for that. So there's this great tension with the new rules. We didn't really talk about the pearls either. That's another change where that's going to increase the scoring. That's new. It's going to increase the scoring on the highest track. And so
there's basically a lot more like sources of scoring, which feels so much better.
Yeah.
It does. And it really encourages this race and this tension and also exploration.
Yeah.
And I think with the exploration being so quick and punchy, balanced with those mechanisms that are kind of pushing you towards it and encouraging you, it really just creates a really well-rounded family weight story experience that there's going to be laughs, there's going to be, oh man, shoulda, coulda, woulda moments, and at the end of the day, I just have a lot of fun with this game. So I'm with you, Z. I would not replace my original Above and Below, but as soon as it is worn out, this is the one I will be replacing it with, and this is the one I would absolutely recommend. I think it's an excellent game, and that's going to do it here for us with Above and Below Haunted, a seal of excellence here at the Dice Tower. Thanks for joining us. I'm Camilla.
I'm Z.
And I'm Joey.
And let's go explore. Let's go find some Glogos.
Watch out for them ghosts.
Hey folks, thanks for watching another one of our videos. If you like our videos, if you like our channel, you would love to game with us at one of our conventions. Check out Dice Tower Cruise, Dice Tower East, and Dice Tower West. Fantastic conventions where we play games with wonderful people, a humongous library, and lots of other events and stuff. Also, don't forget to check out our channel, like and subscribe. I'm Tom Bassel.